Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 28th episode of the Soccer Scene with myself, Adrian Finnin, and joined once again by the ever-reliable Noel O'Conner as we dissect all things Treaty United heading into another big week for the Limerick-based side. Noel, we have to start on a poor outing, I suppose, for Treaty, it's fair to say, losing 2-0 to bottom of the league at Athlone Town. Athlone grabbed only their third victory of the season. You know, it's a lot of discussion about that game, obviously, afterwards, because just a week previously, Treaty United had beaten Cork City, top of the table. Then you go 1 week later, typical of the psychology of football, I suppose. 1 week later, you lose to Athlone Town, the bottom place team. What would you put it down to, Noel? Would you put it down to, complacency on the part of Treaty United, or would you say it was just a really flat performance on the night?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't really put it down to complacency. And look, and it is difficult, when you do play. Logic tells you if you go away and beat the league leaders away from home, then you're going to beat the team that's at the bottom. But obviously, if it was all as simple as that, it was very easy to work out who'd win games. And, I wouldn't really put it down to complacency. I thought it was a very on-treaty-like performance, some characteristics that we hadn't seen before. They kind of moved away from, the staple diet of, sitting in and playing it nice and tight and being patient and waiting for a chance, whether it be a set piece or a breakaway. And that I just felt the first 20-25 minutes of the game was as open as I've seen Treaty play, in terms of it seemed that Treaty were attacking, and when their attack broke down straight away, Athlone were on the attack, and vice versa. So it was a strange one from that point of view. Some really uncharacteristic errors in terms of guys being caught in possession and maybe not making the right decisions on the ball in terms of their passing and, giving the ball away very cheaply. And, I suppose the most disappointing thing was the lack of reaction. Look, we've seen it, teams going a goal or maybe 2 goals down. And I would reference Wexford the week before, because they were in a similar position after beating Sligo Rovers in the Cup after extra time. And they came home from that and, they've Cove them the following week, and they're a goal down and get it back to 1-1 and 2-1 down and get back to 2-2. But they certainly made a bit of a fight at the end. I suppose the most disappointing thing on the Treaty side was that they never really made any kind of an effort to get back into the game. While the Athlone keeper, I think he played very well. He really didn't have a whole lot of what I call, good saves to make in the game. And that's probably the most disappointing thing for Treaty.
Yeah, certainly. And I know that the manager, Tommy Barrett, was in no mood to make any excuses for his side on the night. And he did say that they didn't do the basics well, effectively from start to finish. That was evident, Noel, with the concession and the manner of the concession of the 2 goals for Treaty. Obviously, another, couple of uncharacteristic mistakes from the likes of Mark Walsh and Sean Gearns for the first goal, a bit of hesitancy and then losing the ball in a tough position. And then obviously a breakaway goal for Athlone, which you said was uncharacteristic of Treaty as well. So it was evident, I suppose, that the basics were what caught Treaty on the night.
Yeah, and kind of a warning sign always, I think, for Treaty is when their fullbacks or either one of the fullbacks is under pressure. And I thought that it was an uncomfortable night for Ben O'Riordan, right back. Our Ukrainian player with Athlone, I thought he gave him a torrid time, and in general things are going well for Treaty when their fullbacks have time on the ball, that they can play those long passes, if you like, or play the ball into the space behind the opposition. And when that's not happening, they generally seem to misfire. I thought Tommy missed a trick in not starting Dean George and the Curran up front. With the amount of goals that they've scored this season playing the bottom club, particularly as particularly Enda didn't get much of a run out against Cork, which I thought was the right decision. We spoke about that and said, a team under the cosh are playing away from home against the league leaders when they want to sit deep. Success is the ideal guy, but I thought this game was going to be different. And the fact that both of them have scored, both of them have a really good return this year in terms of goals. I thought possibly to start them up front, and put the Athlone defence under pressure and not give them hope. We often say that a team that has only 2 wins in the season, you don't want to give them a foothold in the game. You don't want to give them hope. And I thought the way the first 20 minutes went gave them that hope, and they kind of grew into the game, for want of a better word. and it's horses for courses. And seeing Dean George out on the left, I wasn't quite sure what was the thinking behind that. And when you've two lads who've got maybe 20 goals between them, I'd certainly be playing them together up top against the team that's at the bottom of the league.
If I was to look, I suppose, at the motivation for Tommy for picking success, Noel, I suppose maybe it's because he was playing against his former club and the motivation that might bring, if you were looking at it from that point of view. But they did look, maybe particularly in the first half, it did look like Treaty were maybe over-reliant on trying to play the channel ball and try and play the ball over the top to success. I know Athlone were trying a similar thing with Thomas Alua as well, but they did keep that. Tommy did say, Noel, that on an AstroTurf pitch, his side probably shouldn't have been looking for the channel ball as much. They should have been trying to keep possession more. I suppose maybe look to bring the likes of Willie Armshaw and Dean George into the game on the floor a bit more and take on the full backs. But I suppose it didn't happen on the night. Do you think that maybe a more possession-based or patient approach was the way to go on the AstroTurf pitch in Athlone?
Yeah, I think it's possible, and it kind of comes back to the point we've made already. Like, if you are playing success up front, well, then you are looking for the channel ball, aren't you? So, and as regards him playing against his former club, I think Enda Curran and Dean George were in the same situation if they were playing. So
I'm losing my marbles. There's too many Electricity League players moving around.
Look, in fairness, I think he's right. I think, look, they had an off night. As I said, you just felt, even with 20 minutes to go, if they could got a goal even with 10 minutes to go or 5 minutes to go, particularly as there was 5 minutes of injury time, that they might have nicked a point. But as I said, the disappointing thing was that, things didn't really change much for them. I say it actually reminded me of Cork the previous week, where they just couldn't seem to get a grip of the game against Treaty, and it was a total role reversal. And look, it was disappointing. It would have been a huge 3 points. It would have put them 7 points clear of Wexford with how many games to go, and would certainly have made it very difficult for Wexford. As it turned out, the results didn't go too bad for them in terms of Wexford only are losing 1-0 to Athlone, but still it's 4 points, and with Wexford to come to the Markets Field, you don't really want that game to be live on that last day if Wexford have a chance to nick that last final playoff place. And certainly the 3 points on Friday night would have extinguished that chance with the way the results went. But at the moment, it's still probably very much to play for in the next few games.
Yeah, certainly. And there is 6 games to go. 4 points in it, as you said, Noel. Wexford did lose to Longford. Looking at it now, Noel, obviously before the game, people were saying, it could go either way. If Longford lost the game, it would bring it back to a 3-horse race again between Wexford, Treaty and Longford to a degree. Now looking at it, looks like the top 4 is definitely set now at this stage. It's a straight shootout between Treaty and Wexford. As you said, though, Wexford in the psychology of it will just be looking, maybe even in the last 3 games, to still just be 4 points behind and try and nick something that way. Treaty will feel like if they'd even got a point against Athlone, it would have been really important for them. I suppose, look, the only thing is, Noel, as you said and as you alluded to, it's not, all doom and gloom for Treaty now, because they still have that cushion, and it's up to themselves now to maintain that for the last 6-game push.
Yeah, absolutely. If you ask Wexford to swap places with them today, they certainly would. They're still 4 points clear, but we spoke about that momentum and arriving into that last game, and if there will be a bit of pressure on Treaty if it does come down to that last game, and if they're a point ahead maybe of Wexford at that stage, and a draw will do them, but a win will put Wexford through. It certainly will make it interesting. But look, they'll be disappointed. It's gone, it's done and dusted. They can't really change it now. Only hopefully they'll learn from it. They'd probably prefer a league game again this week, but as it is, they have the next round of the FAI Cup.
Yeah, it perfectly brings us to the next round. Last 16 of the Cup, FAI Cup, Noel. Maynooth University Town. The game will be played in the AstroTurf pitch in John Hyland Park in Baldonnel. I know that's probably not music to Tommy Barrett's ears, considering the 2 performances Treaty have put in against Athlone on an AstroTurf surface this year. To be fair, he did say they're going to have to be much better on the AstroTurf surface this Saturday. And I know when we were discussing Treaty against Usher, Noel, you did say that it was very important for Treaty that they had the home tie on a Friday night, because if they had a game on a Saturday evening or a Sunday afternoon with the home crowd, it made things much harder. It's all set up now at 5:30 on a Saturday night. Maynooth beat Cove Ramblers, knocked them out of the cup, got to the quarterfinal last year. Same round this year. unfortunately, the omens, you'd say, maybe are set up for a joint killing, but let's hope that Treaty United won't be suckered into that.
Well, I suppose in fairness, joint killing doesn't happen that often, and they've certainly been forewarned about that. And look, they will have learned their lessons as well from last week. And I suppose it'll be interesting to see if Tommy does go with Dean George and the Curran up front. I think it probably would be a good idea. I mean, at the end of the day, they've got a lot of goals against superior opposition to Maynooth. I think they'll be stronger than Usher, and the fact that they're at home as well. And there'll be a bit of League of Ireland pedigree behind them in terms of the people that are involved. They'll probably have their homework done, and it'll be a big game for them. I think they've actually played a match last week, and probably their fitness might be further down the road than Usher will be. It certainly will be a tricky game, but certainly a winnable game for Treaty. And what a carrot for them, to have a game like that to get into the last 8 of the FAI Cup. And if they do win on Saturday night, I think everything will be rosy in the garden again. In terms of looking forward to the next game against Cove, having that 4-point cushion against Wexford and being in the last 8 of the FAI Cup as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It is of vital importance, Noel. It's fair to say. Before the Athlone game, obviously, we did really, obviously, they lost to Waterford, but they had 4 wins other than that as well. They were in good form, Treaty. Going into a cup game like this, Noel, where, your priority is to get to the quarter-final, obviously avoid maybe an upset with Maynooth being really up for the game. Would you go, I know you've talked about going with Dean George and the Curran, who would be experienced players, but are you trying to pack that team if you're Tommy Barrett with experienced players that, are going to be ready for this? I mean, would you toy with the idea of playing the likes of Colin Conroy and Martin Coughlin, or would they be better off coming from the bench in a game like this?
Listen, this is a big game. I think, it's a very important game. And I think, even in terms of getting back on the horse, if you like, with that win and run. And I think the fact that, if they had a game on Tuesday night or Monday night after it, I would maybe have a look at changes. But I think, look, guys can play matches certainly every week. There isn't a huge amount of matches to go. And I think when they put the best 11 on the pitch, there's certainly a match for most teams. And you certainly, again, going back to that lone game about giving the opposition hope, I'd be putting my strongest 11 out, and I'd be trying to get an early goal in that game and try and just take a bit of wind out of their sails.
Absolutely. And it can't be understated, the importance of a quarter-final. Me and you have discussed at length maybe before the Usher game, the fact that the Limerick Senior Soccer has been starved of success in the Cup and only got to the latter stages, in a couple of occasions in the semi-final, and maybe only 4 or 5 times in a quarter-final in a 25, 26-year period. So it's hugely important. And as you said, going in, it'll also probably help in terms of the league campaign, because confidence will be up. You'd imagine you had a quarter-final against a big side, which chances are it will be the likes of a Dundalk or Shamrock Rovers if you manage to get through.
Absolutely, yeah. And if it's not on for a few weeks, well, fellas will be bursting to be picked for that match, and they'll certainly be putting it in even more so in training and mad to get on the pitch and give a really good performance. It certainly helps. There's no doubt about it. It lifts all the club as well. It will increase the club profile across the country, as you say, particularly if it's a big draw. So look, it's a big game for him, and I'm sure Tommy will treat it with the respect it deserves and certainly put his best 11 on the pitch on Saturday evening.